local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Wednesday, May 12th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 8 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. So many questions remain unanswered a day after the province said it was hitting pause on dose 1 of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine. So what will happen to those who've already had their first shot? And what about the tens of thousands of AstraZeneca doses that are set to expire next month? Here's City News reporter Jamie Pulfer.
Call it AstraZeneca overload, basically that brain exploding emoji, as Ontario pauses the use of this vaccine for first doses over safety concerns due to a blood clot side effect. And here's what we know. More than 850,000 AstraZeneca shots have been administered in Ontario, something that helped to curb the out-of-control third wave. Epidemiologist Raywat Dianandan tweets, if you got the AZ jab, you didn't make a mistake. You got great protection when others did not. Now, among those rolling up their sleeves for this shot, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Premier Doug Ford. So what about second shots? Data from the UK shows a much lower blood clot risk from second doses of this vaccine, but there's a supply issue.
So we don't know when any additional AstraZeneca vaccine will be coming. We have not had confirmation of that.
Dr. Dirk Heyer, coordinator of the provincial outbreak response, says there are some 50,000 doses left set to expire next month. So will second doses now be moved up for some? We still don't know. Could we get more supply from the U.S.? We still don't know that either. This, as the province's top doctor, David Williams, says there will be an option for people who got first doses of AstraZeneca to get a second shot of Pfizer or Moderna. Now, this, of course, is pending the results of a UK study and also the advice from the National Advisory Committee on Immunization. I'm Jamie Pulfer.
City News Time 9:02, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
A gorgeous day. Enjoy it. Lots of sunshine. It will be breezy, though. The wind out of the northwest, the high 17 degrees. Tonight, clear and 6 degrees. And tomorrow, sunny, warmer up to 21. For today, the high 17.
And right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it's 8 degrees. Natural Resource Minister Seamus O'Regan says it is very unlikely a shutdown of Enbridge's Line 5 pipeline would be ordered while the company is in mediation with the state of Michigan. Enbridge has no plan to meet today's deadline set by Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer to shut it down. It's a cross-border pipeline over fears of an environmental catastrophe she says is in the works in the Straits of Mackinac. In court documents filed yesterday, the federal government argued shutting down Line 5 would deal a massive and potentially permanent blow to Canada's economy and energy security. City News Time 9:03. A local meat delivery company is expanding. During the pandemic, many people turned to online shopping and grocery orders, and Ottawa Valley Meats delivered. Now they've partnered with several local farmers to buy a processing plant, which happened to be the last commercial-sized plant in our area. Tom Henderson's was scheduled to close in Chesterville as management decided to retire after 40 years. The CEO of Ottawa Valley Meats, Darius Campos, says the plant will be expanded now to offer more product. It will also create more jobs for people in the area. The latest class in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has been announced.
They got the beat all right, the Go-Go's, now members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
The first inductee that's an all-female band where they played their own instruments.
Rock Hall VP of Education Jason Hanley says this year's class is also historic, with Tina Turner and Carole King getting in as solo acts. The first time 3 female or female-fronted groups are getting in the same year. Turner and King were already members alongside their ex-husbands. They're now just the second women inducted twice. Stevie Nicks was the first. Also getting in this year, Foo Fighters, Jay-Z, and Todd Rundgren. The ceremony will be held in October in Cleveland. Jason Nathanson, ABC News, Hollywood.
And I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's got the news and the views.
He's got views on the news.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
I had a first dose. What about the second dose? Will it be the same as the first dose? Because you just paused the first dose. But you said I could get a second dose, and it might be the same as the first dose, or maybe not. Should I have had the first dose in the first place, the first dose that you just paused? Or was the first dose okay because the second dose should be different from the first dose that you just paused after I got it? Take whatever you can get, as long as it's not that one, and it's a 1-dose summer and a 2-dose fall. Good? Good. Got it? Good. And good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show on City News. Confused? Can't really blame you for being confused at this point in time, at this stage of the game, 14 months into the pandemic, 5 months into a vaccination program, and less than 3% of the Canadian population's even had a second dose. So many would just be as happy as songbirds in spring if they could get a first dose. And now this, one of the vaccines is down for the count. It's the vaccine that's easiest to ship, easiest to store, taken out of commission in Canada's largest province. This is the vaccine, I would point out to you, that has been used to great effect in the UK, where they have pretty much declared victory over COVID-19. Where 28 million doses have been administered. And yes, 48 people have died of blood clots out of 28 million doses. 0.00017% of doses given resulted in a fatal blood clot in the UK. And yet now in Ontario, we have hit the pause button? I mean, this is, it's a big story. It's a big story. We have experts on the program. We always have experts on the program because I'm not an expert. I'm just a regular guy. Okay? I'm not a PhD in anything. But this move yesterday was called by Dr. David Williams an abundance of caution. This is being done out of an abundance of caution. Well, maybe it's that. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's an abundance of stupidity. Maybe it's an abundance of panic. Maybe it's irrational fear. We'll hear from the expert. I want to hear from you. I had this shot. When David gets a shot, I thought it would probably be this shot. His best shot would have been this shot, the AstraZeneca shot. I had this first dose, AstraZeneca, 3 weeks tomorrow, 3 weeks ago tomorrow. And if everything had been running tip-top, going according to plan, if everything was going the way the label says it should go, the recommended by the manufacturer, I should get my second shot a week from tomorrow. Not a chance now that that's going to happen. Yeah, there wasn't a chance anyway. In fact, even before yesterday's news about the pause, I was starting to think, I don't think I'm going to get a second shot of AstraZeneca, not because it's a dud vaccine, but rather because there's not going to be any left. There's not going to be any AstraZeneca left anyway. There's almost none of this vaccine left. The supply's all but dried up. Most of what is coming into the country now is Pfizer and Moderna. And I was telling myself my next dose is probably going to be one of those other vaccines. But the thing is, there's no data on mixing and matching vaccines. Now, look, I've had experts on this show, okay? Some of the smartest people in the country when it comes to vaccines. Canada research chairs. And I put it to them, mixing and matching vaccine doses. They've told me they're not really concerned about it. And I take comfort in that. I really do. But I also understand there's really no data to back that up. Not in this country anyway, because barely anyone has had a second dose of vaccine. 2.7% of the population's had a second dose of vaccine in Canada. So you bet I want to get into this whole AstraZeneca pause story today. I have a take on it. Our experts will have a take on it. I want your take on it, too, your reaction to it. This is why we do an hour like the Talk Back Hour. It's ladies and gentlemen, it's built for days like this. You know, we open up the phone lines. We're not reinventing the wheel around here, okay? This is the sound-off sounding board, okay? This is like a community meeting. It's like the original social media. Call 750-1310. David answers the phone. We put you on the air. You offer an opinion. 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. Talk Back Hour every morning. Rob Snow Show between 10 and 11. It's the hottest hour of talk radio in town. Ask around. Okay? I mean, seriously, is this the message now? Well, you might be able to get it for a second dose, but we don't think you should take it for the first dose anymore. Unless you took it for your first dose, in which case you did the right thing and you're probably going to be okay. And you should really take whatever you can get, but you really shouldn't take that one. You should wait for the mRNA vaccine. That's the one you should really get. Hey, that's the one you should really get. It's better than the other one. Yeah, this is where we are in our vaccination program in Canada, in the province of Ontario. If it gets any more confusing, it's going to be an Abbott and Costello routine. Do you regret getting your AstraZeneca shot? I don't. I don't, not for a minute. I'd do it again. Would you get a second shot of AstraZeneca if it was available? You know what? I would. You bet I would. Next week, if one was available, I'd be there in a heartbeat. Are you okay if your first dose doesn't match your second? I don't know. Are you starting to worry you might not be able to get your second dose, even in the next 4 months? Kind of. Mr. Trudeau says it's going to be a 2-dose fall, a 1-dose summer and a 2-dose fall, and that's what? Going to be your election slogan? Fail. The UK opens up even more on Monday than it's open right now, where they can already drink beer on a patio. They're going to be able to hug their loved ones on Monday. A son can go and give his mother a hug. You know what the news in Ontario is going to be on Monday? Lockdown extended for another 3 weeks. Fail. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
The food cupboard started about 25 years ago. Again, it was a very small operation in the basement of a church. And we have been expanding to the point where we needed to have a new facility. So in discussion with the city of Ottawa and Jan Harder, the local representative here, we came to this location, which is about 2,000 square feet, located in the Walter Baker Center. We've been here for about 2 years, and it is much better. It gives us a much broader opportunity to serve our clients better. It's a fairly affluent community in Barrhaven, so you wouldn't think that people would really need to have a food bank or a food cupboard. But people sometimes have a temporary loss of their job, maybe new immigrants or refugees to the community. Maybe there's been an injury in the family or something like a pandemic that causes people to run short of food during their monthly requirements. So we offer any clients who come and live in our catchment area the opportunity to pick up an order of food every 3 or 4 weeks. The need varies from time to time. We have expanded our offering to include quite a few perishables, eggs, milk, cheese, yogurt, vegetables, fruit. But people People, I think, know that we need cans of beans and stuff as well too. One thing that we're consistently short of sometimes is personal hygiene products. You go to the grocery store, you buy your toothpaste and you buy your deodorant and shampoo there. People don't automatically think that to donate those kinds of things to a food cupboard. So we end up buying quite a few of those things from time to time. The pandemic has affected us like it has everybody. Initially, we had to stop the grocery store food donations so that we didn't have any risk of contamination and to have a significant number of volunteer work to be done in our facility. We have a storefront, so it's like a mini grocery store where you take a cart and you go around and pick out the things that you want. That doesn't work during the pandemic to maintain social distancing and so on. So what we have now is our clients can come in one at a time, they make an appointment, they stand behind a line, and they direct our volunteer to, I'd like Kellogg's cornflakes rather than Harvest Crunch, to pick the food that they would like off the shelves according to the allocation, depending on the size of their family. And then they take it out, load it into their vehicle or whatever, bring back the cart, we disinfect everything, and prepare for the next client. We are very blessed here in Barrhaven. We're a totally volunteer organization. So if you give a dollar to us, it goes to purchasing food or to provide some service to our clients.
Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
The Ontario government is expanding access to free rapid testing for essential businesses here in the province. And to talk about that and other things, Vic Fedeli joins me. He's Ontario's Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob. How are you doing
today? I'm good, Vic. Nice to hear from you. Remind us what this program is, how local businesses can take advantage of something like this.
So there's sort of three phases. The first was we've been out for months upon months with a rapid test, and it's a test that you bring into your company. If it's voluntary for your employees, they can be tested, and in 15 minutes they have their COVID test results, and you have a better idea and a way to keep your workers safe and keep transmission low. We put about 9 million of these rapid tests out. There's about 1,600 workplaces. Last week, we expanded through the Chambers of Commerce to go to businesses that are in the 150 and under range. And so now you can contact your Chamber of Commerce if you're a small business and get your kits. They're free from the province of Ontario. You don't need to be a Chamber member. That was the second phase. And now the third phase is overall. It's a website that we've launched at ontario.ca/testing on site, and you go to that website, you order your kits, you get them shipped to your door, everything's free, and you can begin testing your workers.
Okay. For any size business, is that what you mean?
Any size, yeah.
Any size business.
You can go to your chamber if you're a small business. You can go to the website if you're a small business. As long as you're open, if you're right now an essential business that's open, so that would include anybody that's even restricted.
Okay. And the website again is ontario.ca/testing on site. And it's a really exciting program. This opens it up now for everybody, any business that's allowed to be open and requires staff to work on site. And as I said, there's about 1,600 workplaces. We've got about 9 million of these that have been out for quite some time now. We started months ago. It includes about 300 essential industries that are really in the hot zones as well. Yeah, we had the head of the Ottawa Board of Trade on just a few days ago, and one thing she did note is that if there is a positive test, you do have to notify the public health authorities, right? The business does, right?
There's a lot of changes being made to this whole program. That person who gets a positive test on this goes and gets the full test from your assessment center. That's really the difference in this one.
So right now it's just for employees, right? Testing employees?
Voluntarily.
Yeah. Could you eventually see it rolling out? David and I were just talking about rolling out to customers. Could you see something like this being expanded eventually? You know, if we wanted to go eventually to a restaurant or go into any kind of retailer or whatever, it would be nice to have this kind of thing available to us.
Right now, we are putting them in the essential businesses, the businesses that are open. We're trying to make sure that they have a better understanding, that they're keeping their transmission low within their businesses. We're keeping their workers safe. You know, that's really what the purpose of this is right now. It is still a free program. It's not complicated to use. We've really changed the rules quite a bit, and changed the regulations quite a bit. You used to, when we first started it, you needed a doctor, a nurse practitioner, somebody in the medical field, and the regulations have changed. That, for instance, in a large facility, you have, maybe it's your HR department or your HHR, your Human and Health Resources department that runs it. You come in, you get your test, you go to your station, if you will, your workplace, and they let you know in 15 minutes whether there's been an issue. This really tells you there's something in your system. Then you're to go to your assessment center and get the full PCR test. And by the way, I think at the beginning you had said you have to report it to the public health. That regulation is changed now under this new system, because you no longer have to report the results to the province. You still have to send those people to get a full test.
Okay, your critics, are going to say you should have done this sooner. How do you respond? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, we have been doing it for months upon months. I mean, there's 9 million test kits that are out. We've been doing it in 1,600 workplaces, and we're very satisfied with the results that have come in from those larger industries. Phase 2 was to get it into the small businesses, and we did that through the Chambers of Commerce. And now we've just basically put it out for everybody and changed some of the regulations so that the reporting regulations are a little easier. And it's to help encourage a greater use of these rapid tests. We've really reduced the administrative burden. So in the first phase, there was a little bit of work that the firms had to do. It was all still free, still voluntary for the employees, but there were some barriers to implementing it for smaller size companies. So we worked on the regulations. We found out what was holding things up, and we were able to change those regulations. And we still have very strong health and safety measures, but now we've made it a little easier for smaller size companies to get into this.
Okay. So testing is one thing, vaccination is another thing, and I'm wondering what the government's thoughts are, discussions have been on the potential for getting actual vaccine clinics at essential businesses. For example, years ago, Vic, I was working for another company. We used to the company used to bring in every year a public health nurse and give the staff flu shots, voluntary. But but it was, it was good for the worker, good for the business too, to inoculate the staff against seasonal flu. I'm wondering if the government has given that any thought, explored that, is doing that even on a small scale basis. What's going on there?
Yeah, we started some weeks ago. The pharmaceutical company Apotex was the first company. We went in there and did their employees. Now, they don't make vaccines, but they make a lot of the pharmaceuticals that you need every day. And if they went down, we'd have a lot of difficulty in Ontario. So we went in and we did them first. We've gone to some of the hot spots like Amazon, Maple Leaf Foods, Maple Lodge. We're going into industries. So that program has been rolling out over the last few weeks. We've gone into the industries, and that's getting larger and larger rollout into these larger businesses. And they're to do not only their employees, their families are invited, their neighbors are invited, so they canvass the neighborhood as well. So it's not quite a pop-up as the expression goes, but it's been a very successful program with these large employers.
Okay, Vic Fedeli is with me, Ontario's Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade. I know you're not going to confirm one way or another what is going on with the stay-at-home order, the state of emergency. You're not going to scoop the premier. But it's all over the media. It'll likely be extended for another 3 weeks. A lot of businesses are barely hanging on, Vic Fedeli. What is your government going to do to keep helping our business sector in Ontario?
Well, Rob, you're absolutely right that I'm not going to usurp the premier on any kind of an announcement about the timing or anything to do with the stay-at-home order. Other than I can tell you, first of all, it's working. That's we've seen that. We want everybody back to work as soon as possible. So, we need these numbers to continue to drop. So that's the good news, is that it's working. What we are doing for small business, of course, was the Small Business Support Grant. We've had almost $3 billion put out into these small businesses since about the end of January. That's about 110,000 businesses received the first payment, which is anywhere up to $20,000 each. This is a grant, a non-repayable grant. And then we've had about three-quarters of those, or actually a little bit more, receive a second payment. This was something that was announced around the budget time, that there would be a second payment. In a day or two or three, you'll hear Minister Lisa MacLeod come out with a tourism travel type grant as well. That'll be up to $20,000. So there's supports that have gone out, supports that are coming, and that's all on top of things like the Main Street Relief Grant, the Digital Main Street Program for companies. Right now, even today, we have property tax and energy cost rebates. Go to ontario.ca and look for the support for business, and you'll be quite happy with the full level of I guess there's a full suite or a full menu of supports for business.
Okay, one more thing, and you've been very generous with your time. Your portfolio includes trade, promoting positive trading relationships with our neighbors, right? Now,
Absolutely.
I was looking today. Ontario's number one trading partner is Michigan. It's the state of Michigan. 21% of all of Ontario's exports go to Michigan. And Ontario's number one source of imports from a state is Michigan. So it's a vital trading relationship. Auto sector, yeah. Auto parts, obviously, vital, right?
Yeah.
Auto. This Line 5 situation, Vic Fedeli, today is the deadline for the closure of Line 5 as demanded by the Michigan governor. How badly is this damaging a vital economic relationship between two big trading partners, the Line 5 dispute?
Well, it's a very serious, very concerning issue. Between Ontario and Quebec, we are the major users of the what comes out of Line 5, and so this is very, very vital. I'm very pleased to see that the federal government stepped in yesterday and have weighed in on the issue. And I don't think you're going to see the pipeline shut off today. This is something that will be in the courts now, and I suspect for some period of time until both the federal government and the U.S. federal government can iron this particular one out. There's lots of arguments on our side that dictate historically why they can't be touching Line 5. And so we'll continue to let this now play out in the courts as we continue to work very, very hard behind the scenes with our counterparts in the U.S.
Yeah. Does your government, though, the Ontario government, have a good relationship with this government in Michigan?
Oh, I think we have a great relationship. As you say, we're each other's largest trading partners. The Premier Ford has great conversations with Governor Whitmer. We have a lot of issues that are going on, and of course, Line 5 is an unfortunate one. And we know, And we know that the federal government...
Maybe we can send them on a diplomatic mission then.
Well, as soon as we're allowed to travel, that'll probably be one of the first places that we go. You know, we have so much interdependency. Yet there are 19 states that we are their number one trading partner, 8 more that we're their number 2 trading partner. If Ontario were a separate country, we'd be the 3rd largest U.S. trading partner. So it's, you know, we do have an important relationship, and it gets tested every once in a while. And I'm very confident that this is one of those issues that will be resolved through diplomatic approaches.
Okay. Thank you, Vic Fedeli. Good to hear from you. Stay well.
For a while, Rob, and I enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you again.
In Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Wednesday, May 12th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 9 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 10. Here's what's making news this hour. We're expecting an update in one of a couple of media briefings today from the province on the AstraZeneca shot and the plan going forward. Dose 1 appointments abruptly cancelled yesterday. The province said it will announce plans for the tens of thousands of shots of that COVID vaccine that are still in the province. Now, Ontario's top doctor has said AstraZeneca recipients, those who have received their first shot, made the right decision. That was based on advice available at the time to get that vaccine. 40% of Canadians, or 15.2 million of us, vaccinated with at least 1 dose. The chief public health officer in the country says it's not enough, though, to lift the restrictions just yet. Dr. Theresa Tam says 75% is the target of first doses, so lifting restrictions doesn't result in a 4th wave of COVID-19. Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer has given Calgary-based Enbridge until today to shut down the cross-border Line 5 pipeline. No sign that's going to happen. Our federal government says shutting down the line would deal a massive and potentially permanent blow to Canada's economy as well as our energy security. City News Time, 9:34. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
It's time to score. Your political fix. Jason Lietaer here, President Enterprise Canada. Used to work for a guy named Harper. Good morning, Jason Lietaer. Good morning, Jason Lietaer. Jason Lietaer? There he is, Jason Lietaer. I can hear him. I don't know if he can hear me. And, Karl Belanger used to work for a guy named Leighton. He's the president of Traxxion Strategies. Karl, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You can hear me. You can hear Jason too, right?
No, I can't hear Jason.
You can't hear Jason. Okay. I can hear Jason. There's Jason.
Here's Jason. I thought we were going to have a good time today, but he is here.
Are you there, Jason?
He's gone.
He's gone. Okay, look, we'll get him back. All right, let's play the clip. Justin Trudeau. This is potentially the campaign slogan. Look for it on the lawn signs, okay? 1 dose summer, 2 dose fall. This is the Prime Minister.
We all want to have a summer where we can see our loved ones and invite friends over for barbecues. We can have that summer. We can have a 1 dose summer. And a 1 dose summer sets us up for a 2 dose fall, when we'll be able to talk about going back to school, back to work, and back to more normality.
Okay, normality. 1 dose summer, 2 dose fall. Do you think that's a catchy Liberal election campaign slogan, Karl Belanger?
1 dose summer, 2 dose fail is what I heard. This is what a lot of Canadians heard.
Yeah.
Because frankly, nobody wants a 1 dose summer. People want summer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so by coming up with this gimmicky catchphrase, which is not good at all in my opinion,
okay,
you're reminding people that you have not delivered on the hype you promised when you said you had the biggest vaccine portfolio of any countries. You haven't delivered that. And it's not even on the schedule that they've set, because it should be really 1 dose spring, 2 dose summer. But somehow, I guess it's part of managing expectations and pushing it back in the fall. I don't know. I don't like it personally. Maybe it'll work with their audience, their target audience. Maybe they focus grouped it. And
well, I was going to ask you that, Karl, because you've been entrenched in this for a long time. Do you think they may have actually focus group that, ran it by a study group and gauged reaction to it? Maybe
you'd be surprised at how often communications people don't do that. Communications folks and speechwriters, they have ideas, they put it down, and they see the reaction of their peers, and if somebody likes it, they move forward with it, because time is of the essence. Now, if it is to become an actual go-to catchphrase for the remainder of the pre-election period, I hope they focus grouped it, because if they didn't, it could just backfire on them.
All right. 1 dose summer, 2 dose fall. Jason, what do you think? 1 dose summer, 2 dose fall coming to a lawn sign near you.
1 dose summer, 2 dose fall. Just make sure you don't go to the mall. I don't know. What's weird. So for a couple of things, I agree with Karl. There's no way they took this to a focus group, and I'm not saying that because it's good or bad or anything else. I think they're moving too quickly for that kind of stuff, and they probably aren't in that kind of mode. When you do focus groups for this kind of an election campaign, you take your big themes. You're sort of positioning vis-a-vis your other main competitors, all that kind of stuff. You generally don't sort of do day-by-day slogans. So I doubt that that's been focus groups. Number 2, yeah. I think I will say this. I'm not a Trudeau lover. I think they've managed the communications of the last number of months really smartly by essentially hiding the Prime Minister. They bring him out once every 2-3 weeks. Yeah. Whenever they've got good news, or whenever they think that they've got good news, and they haven't been involved in many of the controversies. They've let Premier Ford or other politicians take the real sort of hard stuff, and you've seen a little bit less of Premier Ford recently as well, because I think everybody's figuring out what the Liberals figured out 2-3 months ago, which is if they see every day in this sort of really tough time, they're going to associate you with all the tough times that you have to deal with, right? Yeah. And so I really do think that has been the best part of the Liberal communications over the last little bit, is just sort of leaving them wanting a little bit more and not making people sort of make the Prime Minister the lightning rod for all the issues that are coming out there right now.
Can they ride the vaccine rollout to victory? The performance of the vaccine rollout. What do you think, Karl?
Sure they can. Yeah. Because people forget, right? People have been going through tough times, and suddenly things are better, and you're going in an election. The feelings that people will have will be more positive than if they're going into an election and the vaccine rollout has collapsed and people are still waiting. Which is why we're not going this spring, in my opinion. It's because of the problems we've had. But people forget, they move on, and they'll be so happy that we finally moved on that they'll forget, and it might not be the issue of the election. Certainly that's what the Liberals are hoping for. It'll be a challenge for the opposition to remind people of what happened, to remind people of all the people that died because of the federal government. I mean, certainly they can try to blame them. So will it work? I don't know. Okay. But there will be some kind of joy coming out of this. You can see it on social network when people are getting vaccinated. They are happy. They're moving on. They want to move on. And that sense of hope, for lack of a better word, is something the Liberals are really good at surfing on.
The vaccine selfies.
That's right.
Can you carry that to a majority victory? What do you think, Jason?
I do think they could carry it to a majority victory, or a victory nonetheless, regardless of how many seats it is. I really do think they're well positioned for that, for a couple of different reasons too, Rob. Like the first one is, when you think about the things that the federal government has done very poorly, first of all, securing the borders, that was number one. And second of all, securing vaccines in a timely way. So, we're certainly not leading the world. Anybody with an internet connection and the TV can see that, the UK, the US, and plenty of other places are in front of us. And but the things that they did poorly, either they're not getting blamed for, i.e. vaccines. I think most Canadians are shocked that we have a vaccine as quickly as we can, and it's coming, even though we're well behind some of our peers. And that's number one. And number two, on borders, which has been a real disaster. Like, tell me how, 16 months into the pandemic, we're not, we don't have a two-way agreement with the United States to test truck drivers. And it's insanity to me. We've got 20, 30,000 trucks a day coming in. We're not even doing anything. Like, you can literally just drive in, spread COVID, and go back. Nothing. But they aren't really getting the blame for that either. And I really do. I think the media's done a poor job on that particular one over the last couple of weeks. All you've seen is things like, Doug Ford's crazy for saying the borders are a problem. Well, yesterday, I think some experts have come out and said this is a real big problem. And the examples that were being given, Rob, right? Like, let's say one guy with a variant comes in on a flight from India and misses the quarantine hotel, goes to work the next day, and then causes, let's say, 100 cases. Well, the stats tell you that 1% of that is travel. The problem is 100% of it is travel. It's just that, we have no way of measuring that kind of stuff. But Trudeau is not being blamed for a lot of those things. And if he were, he'd be in a lot more precarious position electorally.
Okay, I want to tap into your experience in communications, political communications, corporate communications. How would you describe the government's effectiveness at communicating pandemic messages right now? A lot of anger and frustration, for example, about the AstraZeneca vaccine in the news out of Ontario yesterday. But just on effective communication strategy, Karl, how do you think government is doing at that?
Well, the issue is that it's not just government, it's governments with an S.
Yes,
and it creates a lot of confusion because you don't have one voice saying one thing. And even within the federal government, you have, for instance, NACI, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, saying things that are completely different than what Health Canada is saying and then what the politicians are saying. And the problem with that is that, you can talk about how arm's length they are and they're providing advice and this and that. For most people out there, they see one brand, the Government of Canada. And when you have conflicting messaging and when you have decisions, flip-flop, changes of mind, it creates uncertainty, it creates confusion, and you're creating, you're undermining the very message you're trying to broadcast and to convey to people. And that's what we're seeing, especially in the case of AstraZeneca. But overall, when you look at who's doing well, who's not doing well in terms of communication, you just need to look at approval ratings. And you've seen during this pandemic, with the exception of Premier Legault and in the Atlantic provinces, a significant drop in the approval ratings of premiers and of the Prime Minister because people were hearing different things at different times, nothing consistent, and the plan that was not working. And there we are today, which is why, frankly, I think that the premiers that decided to go to the polls early on in BC, Saskatchewan, and in New Brunswick were right to do so, because that voter fatigue with the pandemic is still a reality, and it could hurt them in the polls.
Okay. What do you think, Jason, on communications?
I think Karl's hit on something there in terms of consistency. So at the beginning of the pandemic, the message coming out of governments was there was no light between the various governments and or even their like little subgroups that would be out there being heard from, right? And as we've gone further in the pandemic, one of the things that I think people are going to have to reckon with is the quote expertise sort of side of everything. Experts are experts because they think they're right, and quite often they are, but they all can't be right. They've been telling us a bunch of different things. For example, we've got one group of experts telling us that we have to shut essentially everything so that we don't leave our houses and we reduce, sort of spread and or mobility, frankly, even though, the things that are closed right now in Ontario make essentially no sense at all. There's no evidence to suggest that outdoor activities have much of a role in spreading some of this stuff. But then you've got other people who say, well, wait a second, I've been saying shut everything down for a long time, but not that. I didn't mean that. And so those kinds of conflicting messages really do confuse the public. Yeah. And I don't think it's easy for any government, federal or provincial, to sort through some of that stuff, because we're at a point where we're 12, 14, 16 months in, and people are just, they're tired of it. And they're telling everyone, sort of get your act together. And the people actually disagree on some of the best things. The AstraZeneca vaccine, man, just imagine being in government and your chief doctor comes over and says, you know what, that vaccine that you took last week?
Yeah,
and that
we should stop that. Yeah, we should stop that. Yeah.
We're going to stop that. We're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah. Nuts, right? Yeah.
Premier Doug Ford, Christine Elliott, the health minister, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau all took this vaccine.
Sophie, right? Sophie. Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Just imagine being in that office and getting a text from the chief doctor saying, we're going to send you out today to say that we're not going to be doing that anymore. So but that's it. The evidence changes, and sometimes the scientists are wrong. Sometimes the doctors are wrong. Okay. And it doesn't mean they're bad doctors. It doesn't mean they're bad scientists. It just means there's new evidence.
Okay. We'll stop here. When we come back, part 2. We'll see how much of this we can actually get into. Battleground Ontario, subways. Line 5, C10, Leafs, Habs. There's a lot to cover off. It's the political fix. Rob Snow Show, City News.
We just took over this business about a few weeks prior to the pandemic, but we've been loving the community, the people, very friendly. But it's been very difficult starting up a new business, just the time that we did. But I'm sure it's the same everywhere. We did take a broken business, which doesn't help us. But we thought, we believe in what we do. We're very passionate about food. And we just really wanted to share the Iraqi culture through our food. All our recipes are homemade. So this is very unique. Usually you hear restaurants, shops, it's all frozen food or prepared food. So nothing here is prepared, everything is homemade. We get our meat and produce from a local farm. So supporting local is the way to go. We are supporting all the way. And our meat are actually marinated the day of, so it's as fresh as can be. Quality ingredients, and everything is made from scratch. I get a lot of people when they come in, they say it tastes like Middle Eastern, like back home. So for you to have been to Iraq and have the food there, you can really compare and see the similarity. We do like to focus on healthy. So our recipes, not only the homemade, again, everything is from scratch, but we have from combos and to small sandwiches. One of our favorites and very popular is the chicken salad and the beef salad. So now you're getting all the protein and all these amazing ingredients that we all need. During this time, I find a lot of people are sitting at home and not enough movement. So to come here and get something healthy other than go elsewhere and just put, what's not so good for our bodies makes a huge difference. So we have shawarma sandwiches, combos. I mean, if you're looking for a meal to feed your family, I would highly recommend the family platter. It comes literally with everything, with potatoes, with rice, with chicken, with beef, and we don't charge extra for mix. I know a lot of places do. Here we just add everything to your platter. And lots of healthy choices for sure. We're very passionate about food, and for our small family business, it's been good. Like I said, it's a little struggle, but we are not a chained restaurant.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
We're back with part 2, the political fix. Jason Lietaer, Karl Belanger is here. Jason's firm is called Enterprise, and I loved your latest Twitter video, Jason, I have to say.
We had some fun with that one, Rob.
Yeah, getting... sometimes some firms will do this. They'll hire former reporters to train politicians. Okay, so if a reporter calls you, this is how you deal with a news reporter. And you asked around, and it's all on the video. You asked politicians like Tim Hudak, Kathleen Wynne, some others. We want somebody who's going to be really tough when we do our media training. And you came up with Badger. Richard Brennan used to be with the Toronto Star, right? Badger, like take no prisoners guy. And one of the things that I remember about him is I remember Peter MacKay is doing this news conference when he's unveiling the F-35. I don't know if everybody remembers that when Peter MacKay. Yeah. And I think the rumor was it wasn't even a real F-35. It was like made out of a movie set. It was like a wooden version of the F-35, right? And he gets out of the aircraft and he comes down. I'll take your questions now. And Badger says to Peter MacKay, well, it's only got one engine. What happens if the engine breaks? Peter MacKay has this look on his face like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. What does happen if the engine... And so his answer is, it won't. Next question, please. Oh, it was just classic. Rob,
somebody tweeted back at me or us after we put out the video of an old Badgers last scrum in Ontario. Charles Sousa, finance minister at the time, going on about something. And Charles Sousa is a terrific guy. Kathleen Wynne's
former finance minister, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Badger says, just once, I'd like to cover a deal that you didn't screw up.
Yeah, he's a tough one.
Yeah, so I wanted to add a little sandpaper, so we put him on our team.
Good. And his number one rule is, the safe for work version is tell the truth. If a reporter asks you a question, tell the truth. All right, let's talk about Battleground Ontario. The federal government rolled into Toronto yesterday with $12 billion for subways. So, Jason, what do you read into the timing of that announcement? And is this a vindication of the Ford brothers' dream for subways? What do you think,
100%.
Jason?
It won't be presented as such in the Toronto media that doesn't love Doug Ford so hot. But I'll tell you, this Ontario line, getting the federal government together, continuing to keep the pressure up. Doug Ford's been on this for 2, 3, 4, 5 months now. I need the money. I need the money for the Ontario line. The feds, I'm not surprised that they waited till just before they're ready to call an election to make the announcement. But this line, and I realize it's an Ottawa show. Here we are. This essentially for people in Ottawa runs from the exhibition grounds across downtown through the East End and up north towards Scarborough. And it's one of those sort of relief valves that the city really needs when it's operating at full capacity. Doug and his brother, said, no, we don't want to do a bunch of buses. We don't want to do a bunch of light rail. Now there's controversial decision. We want subways. The people want subways, which is actually true. They're very expensive, but that is what people want. And this is something that I think John Tory's got on board. Justin Trudeau is now on board, and Doug Ford sort of put a stake in the ground. So it's a huge win. And what it says electorally is, and in like most things the federal government are doing now, they're clearing the decks. They wanted to call a spring election. The third wave came. They couldn't really do it. They're getting ready for sort of a late summer election for into September, and they're going to spend a little bit of your money to get elected, Rob.
Yeah, was kind of surprised Ford wasn't there for that announcement yesterday to kind of do a victory lap. But Karl, what did you think of that deal yesterday?
Well, you raise a good point. Why was Doug Ford not there? Because it is certainly a vindication of years of the Ford brothers' vision for subways, and it is a big victory, and it's going to be difficult for opponents of the Conservative to now say that they are against transit, that they are against the environment, when you have a big project like that will move people efficiently and with low emissions. Of course, now the question that will fall on provincial government's lap is cost overrun. Because these kinds of projects are massive.
Yeah.
You have a price tag, you have funding from the feds, you have involvement of all the partners. But chances are it will not cost what is projected. It will go beyond that. And that's where the provincial government can start to pay the price for this. The criticism that we've seen before about the cost and the vision of grandeur that was not tailored for what Toronto needed. That's the tricky part for Doug Ford.
Yeah.
But for Justin Trudeau, it's win-win-win at this time, too, because he has no play in building it. He just provides the funding.
Yeah, here's the money. Okay, it's interesting. The Ford team is leaving a lot of credit just on the table. I was thinking the other day, why aren't all the local MPPs here in Ottawa doing a major victory lap on our new civic campus, though it has been revealed? I mean, this is going to be the healthcare construction story in Ottawa for the next 10 years. And certainly Ontario Liberals were never shy about boasting about the investments that they made in healthcare, whether it was Montfort or CHEO or the Royal Ottawa or whatever the case. I mean, and here you get $2.8 billion hospital, and it's like you don't even hear from them. But nevertheless, anyway.
I predict a 500% increase in ribbon cuttings once the pandemic is over.
Okay. Yeah, true. What do we, 1 minute? That's all we have left? Okay. All right. This really came up in a news conference. Premier Legault asked about the lack of Quebecers playing for the Montreal Canadiens. Play that clip.
Do you think that the Canadians were insensitive yesterday, the first time in 111 years where there was no Quebec-born player in the lineup? Well, I think it's unfortunate that there are not more Quebecers with the Canadians. Perhaps one day, if we have the Nordiques, it'll be a competition to see who's got the most Quebec-born players. I understand that Philippe Deneau is injured, Jonathan Drouin is not playing, but there should be more Quebec-born players. I think that when we look at the National League, there are many of them.
Okay. But will he legislate it, though? That's the
No.
Karl, isn't that something, eh? Isn't that incredible? What do you make of that, Karl? Is it, that's something else altogether.
Well, it is something else.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response